Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jesse. You're watching JLS Comics. Thanks for pressing play once again. So today we're going to be doing another review. This time we will be talking about, as I just said, the 2017 Warner Brothers animation film, Batman and Harley Quinn. We'll talk a little bit about the film, and at the end we will give a rating on two scales, in fact. One is a 10-point scale that we like to use in the comic book world, and the other is a 5-point scale, traditional movie scale. So the movie itself, we'll talk about, then get into the rating, and then of course, always looking forward to comments, so feel free to write those down below. Comments, questions, what you thought of the movie, what you would rate it as well. So let's jump right into the movie. Runtime was about 74 minutes, or an hour and 14 minutes, and it was rated PG-13, which I felt was appropriate given the content. We did have Kevin Conroy back as Batman, and incidentally, cameo, verbal cameo of Booster Gold. He voiced him as well. Harley was voiced by Melissa Rauch, not Tara Strong, and she was also the one who sang one of the two songs that we got right around the middle of the film, called Hangin' on the Telephone. Poison Ivy was voiced by Paget Brewster. Nightwing as well. Lauren Lester was back to voice Nightwing, and Jason Woodrue, voiced by Kevin Richardson. So let's talk about the story itself. Essentially, it was a good story, classic, very simple, Bruce Timm, Paul Dini-esque, story. It did remind me a lot of Batman Adventures, and in fact, it did feel like a long episode of the animated series, but with a much sort of lighter tone to it. So it did have that callback for me, that classic there. Not just with the styling, but with the story itself. Essentially what we had was Floronic Man and Poison Ivy wanting to turn everybody into, to quote Harley Quinn in the film, a bunch of walking, talking Brussels sprouts. And then we had Nightwing and Batman needing to team up with Harley Quinn. So they had to go find her. She was working at a shop called Super Babes. And it was a little sexualized, sort of like a Hooters-esque sort of place. Ended up being a place where she could hide in plain sight, essentially. And we did see in the preview, somebody wanted to, grab her, and Harley was like, touch me, lose her hand. But there were things like that where, you're looking at her panties, or you're seeing, the boob shaking or something like that. That, some of those jokes didn't land quite as well for me. They felt a little forced, if not a little bit uncomfortable. And I don't know, who Bruce Timm is teaming up with to write some of this stuff, but he's shipping a lot of interesting pairings. First we had Batman and Batgirl in the Killing Joke film, and now we have not only that, but a scene with Nightwing and Harley. Basically, she had him tied up. She wanted to have sex with him. There was a sex scene towards the beginning with the two of them. That said, they did make Harley look psychopathic, and to correct myself, as Harley did correct Batman, sociopathic. They did a good job of making her, seem sort of on the edge and kind of loose and all over the place, essentially. So they had to go find Floronic Man and Poison Ivy, looking up clues, traveling to Louisiana, this and that. Neat cameo there in Louisiana in a swamp. I won't tell you what it is, so you can see it for yourself. But the aesthetic for it, that sort of animated series aesthetic really does stand up today. It felt very clean and polished with today's modern, sort of technology. It did have that feel, but it had an overall sense of campiness to it. Like, even with the intro, it looked sort of like Pink Panther or The Incredibles type of intro. And then you got to call back to Batman 66 with some of the, like, bam and pow and ow my balls sort of stuff overlaid over as an effect. Some of the jokes were pretty amusing. Some of them were very distracting from the plot. Like, there was a fart joke, and I know you all have heard about it, but it was no exaggeration, a minute long. A fart joke that was a minute long. And then you had a couple, like I mentioned, one of the songs that Melissa Rauch actually sang herself. Another one right before that as well. And those kind of went on for, a regular song length. We had songs in The Killing Joke. We have songs in this. So that's kind of thematic now for these Warner Brothers animation films, it seems like. That being said, another trend with DCEU or the DCAU is to be very dark and almost edginess with the darkness. So this was a little bit refreshing to have that lighter flavor to it, the lighter feel to it. The jokes were a bit juvenile at times, but it was nice to have something with a little bit of a lighter feel to it. And then there was a couple after credit scenes as well. So if you do watch it, stick around through the credits because you'll see a couple scenes once you get towards the end of that. So that's kind of all I wanted to say about the movie. It was a little bit uneven because of the jokes and the fart joke especially, and then the songs kind of thrust into the middle of it. But overall, I did like it. There were definitely some things I would change. Probably not show Harley's panties, probably wouldn't have such of a sex scene, would take out some of the jokes, namely the fart joke, but I did like the classic flavoring of it. I liked the aesthetic for it. I liked the feel of a classic animated series episode sort of take on it. So what would I give it for a rating? I would give it 8.0 out of 10. So there's your 8 out of 10 on the 10-point scale, and I would give it a 3.5 out of 5 on a 5-point scale. Looking forward to continuing watching some of the other animated films as well. If there's something that you're curious about that's come up or, long in the past that you'd like me to review, feel free to let me know down below. But again, what'd you think of this movie? What would you rate it? What'd you think of my impression of it? Be curious what you guys think. Feel free to write that down below in the comments. And of course, if it's your first time stopping here, love to have you as part of the JLS Comics family, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the little bell next to it. That's all. Hope you liked it. See you guys in the next video.